Good morning, everybody, and I welcome all councillors and members of the public to the latest meeting of North Northamptonshire's Executive, and also including those who are watching online via the live stream on YouTube. Members are invited to keep your microphones muted unless invited to speak, and if you can also ensure that your laptops, mobile devices are all on silent as well, that would be appreciated. So item 1, apologies for absences.
Thank you, Chair. The only one I've received is Councillor Harriet Pentland.
Thank you very much for that. Item 2, minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of February and 16th of February 2023. The minutes are on your agenda packs, page 5 to 20 of the agenda pack for the first meeting, and the minutes held on the 16th of February are on pages 21 to 38 of your agenda pack. Are there any comments in their respects of accuracy? Again, if you can make sure your laptops are muted, please. Can I have a mover, please, to the... Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Lorman. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. Item 3, members' declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members? Okay, thank you very much. So we move on to item 4, notifications to request and address this meeting. I can confirm that I have received requests to address the meeting in relation to the following items. Item 5, John McGee. Item 6, Lynn Buckingham and John McGee. Item 7, Councillor Lynn Buckingham, Councillor Dorothy Maxwell, Councillor John McGee. Item 8, Dorothy Maxwell. Item 9, Councillor Lynn Buckingham, Dorothy Maxwell, Jean Addison and Leanne Buckingham. So move on to item 5, which is the performance indication report. As of P10, I'd like to invite Councillor John McGee to address the meeting. Councillor McGee, you have a maximum of 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and be brief on this one because I have more to say on the next agenda item. I just have a couple of questions, if I may, Chair, on the KPIs. The one on complaints, which were 218 complaints this month, that is down dramatically as we started as a council, and I appreciate that. But the complaints show how well our services are running. And I'm just like to ask and ensure, and that we're ensured that each executive member looks at these on their weekly or monthly meetings with their directorate, because the sooner we get the complaints to a minimum, the more we know our services are running better. So if I can have that insurance, I'd feel a lot better about it. The other one, Chair, as I've asked for month upon month upon month, is of course agency staff spend. 3 times in the KPI report it talks about it's only OPIS we report. And I've asked for spend on other agencies, because I know we spend money on other agencies, but I don't know what that total is. And if I don't know, and then that's not a good fact for any councillor not to know, because I'm sure it's quite considerable, and it's something we as a council have to bring agency spend down. So can I please ask, yet again, I think it's about 6 months now I've been asking for the figure, apart from OPIS, what we spend on agency staff. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to invite Councillor Lloyd Bundy to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. In response to Councillor McGee's comments, first of all on the complaints, that is something that we're looking at. The complaints that are taking the longest times are the ones that are complicated and actually go across several directorates and trying to get all the information back in, and that does take time, and that is why some are going out. I think it's also fair to say that in January we, although our call, the number of calls answered within the allotted period went down slightly, we actually answered 5,000 more calls in January than December. And so those things, so I do appreciate what you're saying about the complaints, but I don't think it's as massive issue as it does appear to be. As far as agency staff goes, we are within the whole review of the structures and the vacancies and everything else. We are working on that, and we will be reporting on that. Moving on to the report, this sets out the key performance indicators for North Northamptonshire as at period 10 of the financial year. As I reported last month, the number of vacancies across Northampton has been removed while we work on with colleagues to present a more accurate and meaningful figure. Also, we have worked with service performance data owners to provide better narrative on those indicators giving cause for concern and what actions we are taking. On balance, the performance report shows a positive picture. More than half, which is 56%, of those with a target are performing on or above target. 13% are within tolerance and 31% below tolerance. In terms of direction of travel, performance improved in 33 indicators and performance declined in 24. It should be noted that even a very slight movement in a well-performing indicator would signal a decline, so it isn't necessarily a cause for concern, and obviously the converse is true as well. An example of this is the registration of births within 42 days. That shows a decline from 99.1% to 93.5%, but we are still above target, which is 90%. Also, there is also always a warning to beware of percentages. Although the percentage of number of calls to customer services, as I've just said, declined, in reality, we had 5,000 more calls. I'll leave my colleagues to comment on various KPIs in their own areas, and with that, Chair, I'm happy to propose the recommendation of paragraph 3.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bunday. Members, have we got any comments to make that are related to your areas? No? Okay. So we've seen the recommendations and they've been moved by Councillor Bunday. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Brackenbury, thank you very much. So the recommendations are set out on page 40 of the agenda pack and they've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. So we now move on to item 6, performance management and reporting arrangements. I'd like to invite Councillor Lynn Buckingham to address the meeting. You have a maximum of 3 minutes, Councillor Buckingham.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I welcome this report. I do like a good plan, as many of you know. Sorry. Being corrected there. But will there be somewhere on the council's website where the information that isn't going to be presented will be, so that you know, those of us that are interested in the KPIs will be able to follow some of those, even those ones that are tracking. The other thing that I wanted to ask about is, obviously there is a new regulator of social housing. They've brought in a new data set which have to be adhered to from April the 1st. How will they come to, or will they be included within the data sets in our role as a landlord? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buckingham. Councillor McGee, if you'd like to address the meeting, you have a maximum of 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I have concerns on this one. Of course, we would, as councillors who like to keep an eye on how the council that they're involved in run. And to come up with this without prior consultation across the board is worrying. In fact, it says the consultation, under consultation, the report, it states it took consultation with some people and executive members. There's a lot of councillors that sit on this. Surely they would have a say on what KPIs we should be looking at across the board. And I'm worrying that a handful of people have decided that some of the KPIs should not be looked at. Some are moving to quarterly, some to annually. And I heard what Councillor Bundy said on the complaints. I believe the less complaints we have, the better a council we should be. That is something that should be kept an eye on monthly. And if we were asked, I would have some suggestions that should be kept on a monthly meeting, so that we, as backbenchers, It's okay for the executive who could go and ask their questions constantly from the directors. Backbenchers across the parties, not just our group, across the parties, should have an opportunity to look at the KPIs. Ones like the agency staff, the over £1 million odd in agency staff, and we are not going to be seeing that to each quarter. That's ridiculous. I'm sure that the executive members will be asking every month how we are managing agency staff, but not to present it so that other members across this council can have a say and a good look into that. It's horrendous. It reminds me, Chair, and there's about 6 of you sitting round here that was involved in the old county council, and this seems to be what's happening now. We are going to do things without talking to everyone, and we know the mess they got into because they didn't listen to not just the opposition but their own backbenches. Chair, so I would ask that this goes, if not in front of EAPs, at least it should go to scrutiny so that all councillors can have a say on what KPIs they believe is important for this council.
Thank you very much, Councillor McGee. As you're aware, we run an executive model here, and you have shadow portfolio holders, and your shadow portfolio holder in finance is Councillor Matt Keane. Unfortunately, I don't think he's had any meetings with finance currently to discuss this paper. So if you need to be informed on things, I suggest you put that through to your shadow portfolio holder for finance to have those meetings to be kept abreast. Thank you. I'd like to invite Councillor Lloyd Bundy to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll probably be addressing some of Councillor McGee's comments within what I'm about to say. The purpose of this report is to present to the Council performance management framework going forward and set out the Council's approach to assuring and improving its performance for the financial year 2023-24. And as members are no doubt aware, we are coming to the end of the collaborative agreement with the West, which is one reason why we're putting together this performance management framework for Northamptonshire at this time. This will ensure that our performance recording and reporting arrangements are clear and consistent on the basis of shared understanding between members, officers and directorates. This matches good practice and can be seen in other councils up and down the country. A good council should continually review what we are reporting, and that is what we're trying to do. It should be relevant, it should be useful. We're introducing a more focused approach for monthly performance recording going forward. This is to make sure that members and our senior officers receive greater detail about current performances and the corrective action being taken for areas that are of most concern. Appendix A sets out this framework. Appendix B is the template to highlight and focus the reporting. Appendix C and D sets out the KPIs that are being reported monthly and less frequently, respectively. Appendix E shows those performance indicators that are being removed, and the reason for removing some performance indicators is actually to free up resource so that we can concentrate on more focused reporting on those areas that are of concern. And as Councillor McGee does remind us that this council spends a lot of money on staffing, so if we're freeing up resources, we don't have to employ more people or more agency staff to do the same job. I'm happy to propose the recommendation of paragraph 3, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bundy. Members, have we got anything to say on this report? Councillor Binley.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of notes. There are a couple of items in the appendices, so AFL 15 and also STP 08. I have actually requested that those be moved into the monthly reporting. So I think that that's just a slight oversight there. I would just like to pick up on some of the comments from other members. So with regards to the housing regulator and the new ways of managing or monitoring, should I say, performance of social housing that applies from the 1st of April. Of course, there are some changes in there, such as inspections of lift devices within properties and also satisfaction surveys. We have not yet decided as to exactly how we're going to report those, but of course that information will be available through the housing regulator anyway, because they are going to be publishing that information. So watch this space. We will decide on exactly whether we're going to include that in the KPI reporting. Just to pick up on the bit about consultation over making these changes, I do, Chair, I do find it a little bit rich with some of the comments about consultation, bearing in mind I personally made some changes to our KPIs based on the suggestions of an opposition member, which was around rent arrears in social housing. I didn't hear any complaints back then about consultation, so it just seems that it's acceptable one way but not the other way round when we're reviewing it. And I would say that scrutiny do have an input in this, because I know for a fact that the way that voids are reported and the suggestion that's in the report of how voids should be reported did actually come from scrutiny. So this executive does take the feedback from scrutiny and does make those amendments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bunday. Any other comments from members? Councillor Brackenbury.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I welcome this report. I welcome the comprehensive suite of indicators which are of value to officers and members alike. They are such an important indication of the health of the authority. I also welcome retention of so many of these on a very regular monthly basis. I think that's important, just to sort of get a snapshot of where we are on a frequent basis. And I'm also interested to see some of the indicators regarding electric vehicles and indeed delivery robots coming up as part of the KPIs, because of course that is going to be a growth industry. So, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buckenby. Any other comments from members? No? Okay, so if we could look to move on to the vote. Councillor Bunday has moved the report. Can I look for a seconder, please? Councillor Binley, thank you very much. So the recommendations are at page 72 of the agenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. We move now on to item 7, procurement of home care services for North Northamptonshire. I'd like to invite Councillor Lynn Buckingham to address the meeting. Councillor Buckingham, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. The very brief one. How will we ensure that continuity of care for clients across the district is made and met? And for many clients, continuity is key for keeping well, because people coming in on a regular basis get to know you, get to know what your condition is like. Without continuity of care, they don't see those changes. So it's about keeping well. So I know that this is all about a contract and getting that contract right. But it's also about continuity of care, and how we manage that is all I was going to ask for. Thank you.
Councillor Buckingham, thank you very much, and I'm sure Councillor Harrison will wrap up your questions in her response in a while. I'd like to invite Councillor Dorothy Maxwell to address the meeting. Councillor Maxwell, you have a maximum of 3 minutes.
This report for home care services must ensure that this contract says what it's going to do. That every person over the age of 65 and people with physical disabilities are looked after in their home by qualified staff who who are given the right training and qualifications. This contract, which runs for 5 years with an extension of a further year, must be monitored, and this will ensure that we have the right to terminate it should it not go according to plan. This has to be a robust procurement process by the Council, as these people's lives that we're dealing with. This is not about money, but it's ensuring that people can remain in their home for as long as they're able to in North Northamptonshire. The Home Care Service has a problem in recruitment of 125 people and a turnover of 26%. This presents barriers of expansion of service provision to meet the needs of home care. Therefore, we must ensure that the right pay and conditions are mapped out, and training is part of this. If you pay the right money to these people who are there to help, it must reflect their ability to understand this work. You do not want to hear from people who awarded the contract not treating the staff with respect. We are a county who should monitor what happens and not hear about mistreatment of people in our care. I have heard stories of people not being treated correctly. We do not want this to happen on our watch, and to make sure that the contract awarded is to people who care. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maxwell. I'd now like to invite Councillor John McGee to address the meeting. Thank you, Councillor McGee.
Thank you, Chair. This is a very complicated issue, isn't it? And it's never ever easy. In all the years I've been involved in local government, this has been difficult. I have some brief questions, Chair, but I hope you'll bear with me because Councillor Valerie Anslow couldn't make it and a resident wrote to us. So if you bear with me, I'd like to just read a bit from that after I ask my questions, Chair. I agree that it's a 5-year contract because that gives people that stability to go forward, and I'm glad that's there. But you mentioned consultation. You've been out and speaking to stakeholders, and I'll come back to that in a brief later if I may, Chair. I hope that we've really listened to these stakeholders. That's extremely important that we do because it's their lives that are affected by this. And Chair, we mentioned with the option of talking about e-brokering. I don't know how many people know exactly what e-brokering is, but if we are going to do it, I plea that we look into the good practice up and down the country because, you know, people like Hertfordshire did this for about 10 years and then took it away because it wasn't working properly. But there are some good examples, but we need a good in-depth research before we take that on board, if we choose to take that on board, Chair. Thank you. Chair, Valerie got a letter from somebody living in Wellingborough, and it says that their concerns focuses on the changes that social care providers are having to make to enable them to provide the care and support that many disabled people need. A resident of supported living accommodation in Wellingborough contacted her about the transformation. She is worried, Chair, when we move to agency staff, take away the in-house staff, that they are going to have so many different people and not be able to build that relationship up. And we know older people, disabled people need a relationship with carers. And if we move to agency staff, that could change dramatically and there could be different people sent out in each time. That doesn't build trust and relationships up with the people that need that support. So they're putting a plea in that that does not happen. And I'm sure our staff will work extremely close with the people that are receiving this care to ensure they have some stability with the people that are looking after them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. If you could ask Councillor Anslow to send that letter on to Councillor Harrison, I'm sure we can deal with that quickly. Councillor Harrison, would you like to introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps if I can just quickly answer some of those questions before I go into the bulk of the report, that might be useful. So, Councillor Buckingham, you talked about continuity of care and how important that is, and I couldn't agree with you more. We will maintain that through our continuous quality monitoring of our providers, and also we'll be looking for our care providers to work with partners across the health and social care spectrum, and very much with primary care. All of that which will help to maintain that continuity of care. Councillor Maxwell, you talked about how important good care and qualified staff are in keeping people safe in their own homes. Again, I absolutely couldn't agree more, and that is exactly what this paper is all about providing. You talked about the, pay, costs, etc. And all of that is taken into account in this paper, the national living wage, making sure that our providers can afford to pay that and continue to be able to afford to deliver that care. We've also looked at, and this is particularly in response to consultation with providers, the current zoning system we have, which is where providers can only bid for work in certain zones. And this paper proposes that we would get rid of that so our providers are able to provide care anywhere in Northamptonshire. And then finally, and very importantly, looking at the urban and rural nature of our area and making sure that we're paying a fair cost of care. Sorry, I should be careful using the term fair cost of care. A fair cost of that care depending on the rurality, because obviously there are increased costs if you're having to travel or your carers are having to travel long distances to provide that care. So all of that is taken into account in this paper. Councillor McGee, the consultation with stakeholders that you mentioned has been, I think, better than what we've seen before. I believe that we as a council are developing better relationships with our providers. I think, you mentioned the past earlier on. I think there was a deterioration in relationships in the past, but we've been working very closely with our providers. And as I mentioned, there are a couple of things there that we're going to do differently directly as a response to those consultations. And I think the case that you read out from Councillor Anslow sounds very similar to other letters that I've had regarding Da Vinci Court in Wellingborough. And I think there's a little bit of jumping the gun in the residents of Da Vinci Court, making the assumption that we will stop providing care in Da Vinci Court. That is not a decision that has yet been made. And all the responses, all the letters that we're having from concerned residents will feed into that part of deciding how we manage that facility in the future. So I hope that gives some assurance on that. But yes, please do ask Councillor Anslow to pass that letter on to me. And if I'm wrong about it being Da Vinci Court, then I apologise and make sure we deal with that. So I hope that's answered most of your questions. Just on to the paper itself. So the purpose of the report is to seek agreement from Executive to re-procure a home care service for adults who are ordinarily resident in Northamptonshire and predominantly aged over 65 years old, but also those under 65 with physical disabilities. Commissioning of home care services ensures the Council fulfils its statutory duty under the Care Act 2014 to provide care and support with daily living activities for adults aged 65 and over. The current home care framework, lead provider Tier 1, which commenced in April 2018, is due to expire on the 31st of March 2023. Tier 2, which commenced in April 2019, had an extension period of 12 months available, of which 7 months will be used to support a contract start date of the 2nd of October 2023. Social care reform and awaiting the findings of the mandated fair cost of care exercise has resulted in an inability to meet the original timescales for the contract to commence. However, the extension has enabled the authority to invest time to engage with and understand the home care market in Northamptonshire. Review of current provision and engagement with both the wider home care market and stakeholders are being conducted in preparation for the procurement. In addition, benchmarking of both cost and service model has been undertaken with neighbouring local authorities and councils nationally. The review of the current provision, including capacity and demand mapping, is at Appendix A. Fee benchmarking with other local authorities and cost modelling is at Appendix B. Home care options appraisal is at Appendix C. And engagement with current providers, statutory partners and individuals who access services at Appendix D. Based on the findings, it's proposed a 5-year agreement with the option to extend for a further 1 year is approved in order to provide certainty and stability to the system. A dynamic purchasing system will enable new providers to contract with the council throughout the term of the agreement, maximising value for money, improving provider oversight and market engagement for the council. In addition, a DPS dynamic purchasing system supports a range of providers, including those from the voluntary sector, to work with the council, increasing diversity and volume within the market and maximising choice and sustainability. Following a robust procurement process, providers will be awarded contracts having been assessed against a range of assurance tools, minimising risk to the council. And I think that goes a bit to your question, Councillor Maxwell, about quality of care, people being properly qualified and so on. You know, that they have to be able to join this framework. Key benefits of this approach include reduced need for spot purchasing, increased oversight of commission providers, offset volatility of losing suppliers, and improved relationships with a wider market. Where providers do not meet the acceptance criteria initially, the dynamic purchasing system will allow them to reapply at any point throughout the contract term once all assurance requirements have been met. A traditional closed framework agreement does not provide this level of flexibility or opportunity for the market. Key issues for our home care market include the increased cost of delivering care, increased workforce costs and difficulty with recruitment and retention, the current zoning model and rates. A whole unitary-wide pickup model has been co-produced with the market, with zones removed and ascending rates attributed to postcodes with increasing rurality. Fee modelling has been carried out in partnership with finance colleagues, with recommended rates being shaped by the actual costs reported by providers in providing home care, bordering local authority benchmarking, engagement with the market, the broader findings of the mandated fair cost of care exercise, and the requirement to increase the national living wage from April 2023. The new total contract value for the proposed 6-year contract is 101.628 million. This figure is currently factored into the medium-term financial plan. The specification will ensure support to individuals is delivered with the promotion of self-care where this remains possible, and promotes joined-up working with colleagues within primary care networks across North Northamptonshire for the benefits of individuals. The commissioning and quality teams will also work with both internal and external partners to develop the support available to providers, access to training and an increasingly supportive quality and monitoring function will create added value for those choosing to work with the council and will support service development and quality. And with that, I would like to propose the recommendations at 3.1.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harrison. I'd like to invite some debate from members. Councillor Brackenbury.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Harrison, again for your very comprehensive introduction to the report. I welcome this report. I do welcome the careful analysis that has been made with regard to especially the rurality, because I think that's a point that is often missed, and that North Northamptonshire is a very large area, and accessing people in very rural parts of the world, of course, has got a considerable additional cost, and both in time and in expense to get there. So I do welcome that. I also think that the procurement process is going to give rise to less spot provision, and I think that's very much to be welcomed as well, because again I think it comes back to having a team of people who are going to be working together to provide the best care possible. So I think there's careful work that's gone on that, and congratulations to your team as well, Councillor Harrison. I think is very much to be commended. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from members? No. Councillor Harrison, if you just wanted to wrap up on that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Brackenbury. And I couldn't agree with you more on the spot provision point that you made. It costs the council more to procure beds on a or care on a spot basis because obviously you're having to go to the market individually one at a time. And so encouraging people to join the framework and become a contracted provider is better, not just for us and cost, but it's better from the point of view of better oversight and quality monitoring, and better for them in that we are able to offer more support through training and development and so on. So anything we can do to encourage our providers to want to become contracted providers is really important on a great many counts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So the report has been recommended by Councillor Harrison. Can I look for someone to second? Councillor Brackenbury, thank you very much. So the recommendations are page 108 of the agenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. So we move on to item 8, which is the annual inflationary uplift adult social care and support for 23-24. I'd like to invite Councillor Maxwell to address the meeting. You have a maximum of 3 minutes, Councillor Maxwell. Okay, not a problem. Thank you very much for letting us know. So, Councillor Harrison, would you like to introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to consider and approve the proposed uplift in fees paid to adult social care providers in 2023-24 across the full range of community-based provision, which includes residential and nursing care, home care, day care and supported living. Section 5 of the Care Act 2014 establishes a duty on each local authority to ensure a sustainable market of care in their area. The market of care includes the full range of service types and provisions applicable to adult social care, including residential and nursing care, home care, day care, supported living, and the provision of direct payments to employed personal assistants. Annual fee uplifts take into consideration market pressures and market sustainability. This includes the care market's ability to maintain adequate capacity and supply, whilst adhering to regulatory and quality requirements within the general and commercial environment in which the market operates. The uplifts also take into consideration the central government's annual position on setting the national living wage. In 2023-24, the government have confirmed that the living wage will rise by 9.7% from £9.50 an hour in 22-23 to £10.42 an hour in 23-24 for individuals aged 23 and over. The recommendations set out in Section 3 of this report aim to achieve a balance between recognising the pressures impacting on care providers and the market in general, supporting providers to recruit and retain staff and ensuring quality. However, this must be done within a finite envelope of resources and limits the options available to commissioners. The full exploration of the options can be seen in detail at 5.1. There continues to be high levels, 39% of packages of care individually commissioned using spot providers with a commensurate increase in spend. As I was mentioning a moment ago, spot provision is costly to the council, and the proposed uplift seeks to positively influence existing contract framework supply through retention and sustainability, whilst also incentivising an increase in supply through levering better rates of pay and reward for our contracted providers. Our strategy is to focus our development and commissioning activities specifically with our contracted providers. Alongside this fee uplift, we're developing our provider support offer that will include funded training and enhanced quality monitoring and support function. This will enable the council to support improvement in the quality of its contracted care providers, secure a sustainable market of high quality providers, and secure value for money in our independent care spend. Applying a blanket percentage uplift is a crude mechanism, and in order to work within the financial envelope available, this paper proposes targeted uplifts to support service continuity and to support providers to recruit and retain sufficient numbers of care staff, enabling the council to meet its statutory duties. The table at paragraph 3.1 summarises the proposed uplifts for the recommended option 3, and this is set out in detail in section 3 of the report. The recommended uplift for 23-24 is as set out in the table at paragraph 3.1, and the medium-term financial plan makes allowances for this uplift within a total budget for contract inflation, incorporating national living wage pressures of £8.319 million. This overall budget allows for the full year cost impact of last financial year's care homes increase agreed from the 1st of September 2022 at an overall cost of £1.783 million. The total new proposals in the scope of this paper is £3.527 million. The total commitments to date of this, if this decision is approved against the overall contract inflation budget, would be £5.310 million. The Council will also look at the need for further support for the sector focusing on care for older persons and direct payments. These will be considered separately to the inflationary uplifts contained in this report. That remaining £3.09 million will be utilised to support any further investment into the older persons independent care sector, to support market sustainability, to support our recommissioning exercise for home care during 23-24, as well as funding any uplifts to direct payments identified as being required to support the employment of personal assistant workers during annual reviews. I hope that is comprehensive, and I'd be happy to propose the paper.
Thank you very much. Councillor Harrison, it's good to hear we're investing in some of our most vital members of staff within this organisation. Thank you very much. Any members got any questions, comments? No? Okay, so the recommendation has been moved. If I could look for a seconder, please. Councillor Howell, thank you very much. The recommendations are on page 132 to 133 of the agenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. Have a show of hands in favour, please. Thank you very much. So we now move. Sorry, gentlemen, are you having a meeting of your own? Are you having a little meeting of your own there? Okay, thank you. So item 9, 0 to 19 years, Children's and Young People's Services. I'd like to invite Councillor Buckingham to address the meeting, Lynn Buckingham, to address the meeting. Sorry.
Thank you. Mine is a very quick one. I welcome the report, but wonder whether anything has been done in light of West Northants Council's scrutiny report on the Children's Service and some of the failings that's been going on, and whether that's triggered off another review of our own scrutiny function, looking into how we may be failing our children. That's all I've got to say. The report from West Northants Council was quite damning in terms of children's mental health and other services. Some of them having to wait for up to 2 years to access mental health services. This extension for 2 years means that some children won't even get to access a service. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buckingham. I'd like to invite Councillor Maxwell to address the meeting for a maximum of 3 minutes, please. Councillor Maxwell, your time to shine.
Sorry, I forgot I put my name down. I have to say that it's excellent. This is a really good thing for Wollaston School. Having taught there in the past, I think that... Wrong paper.
0 to 19, sir, Councillor Maxwell.
Sorry, 0 to 19. Ah, sorry, I did not want to speak at this one. No.
Okay, you're always welcome at any item. But,
Through you, Chair, just to clarify, Councillor Maxwell hasn't actually put her name down for the Wollaston report.
sorry?
The Wollaston report, which I believe Councillor Maxwell just started on there, she's not actually down to speak on that item.
Okay. Oh dear. Okay, Councillor Addison. You know the drill. Try and stick to the agenda item.
Thank you, Chair. And just for the record, I support Wollaston unit as well. Thank you. Thank you, Chair, and colleagues. We're all aware of the increase of mental health cases for young people in our unitary, and the difficulties the families having in accessing help and support for their children. It's important that we have up-to-date data from the organisations commissioned to supply the services and the outcomes. My questions are, Reach Collaborative, how are the clients referred and how many clients have they seen in the last 2 years? What are the outcomes? And again, for Strong Start, what data is there around the number of referrals and the contacts and the outcomes of those contacts? And are the families then linked on to integrated care, children's care centres? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Addison. I'd now like to invite Councillor Leanne Buckingham to address the meeting. Councillor Buckingham, you have a maximum of 3 minutes.
Morning, thank you for this opportunity. Fully support that we should extend whilst we review. I'd like to understand the approach and the timeline for reviewing the current service and how that will feed into a future commissioned service. I'm sure it comes as no surprise, it's in the report that I have slight concerns over why our 2-year assessments are not being done as quickly as they should. So they're down at like 49%, where nationally we're looking at 72%. That's kind of the biggest, clearest one that obviously is of concern. If we're not catching people within the first 2 years, if we're not catching our young people's mental health and well-being, their family situation within the first 2 years, we're probably looking at more long-term instances of detrimental effect. But it also appears that our 12-year checks with our health services are also dipping. So I'd like the member to keep an eye on that and see what they can do to improve that, please.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buckingham. Councillor Harrison, if you'd like to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. You'll be glad to know this is my final report for the morning. I will endeavour to answer the questions from the floor. Councillor Buckingham, you talked about the West Northants Council scrutiny report into children's services. And I have to confess that I don't know the detail of that scrutiny report. I am aware, of course, that there are concerns about children's services across the board. And I think we're all aware of difficulties with mental health services and access to those. And I think that's an incredibly important issue. And it kind of leads on to the questions asked by Councillor Addison in terms of the numbers, the waiting times, how they're being referred into the Reach service and into Strong Start. I don't have those figures with me right now, but I will obviously get back to you with those figures. My understanding is that the Reach service is working very well. But obviously, I'd need to get you some detail around that and some further information. I think it would be fair to say that it would be wrong to suggest that there's not improvement needed, particularly in children's mental health. And of course, the young persons, the Children and Young Persons Collaborative, which is part of the integrated care system, is very much looking at that and will be very much part of the development of the recommissioning of this work. So we'll be working with our partners in the Integrated Care Board, the Children's Trust, West Northants Council, with us and looking at some of the developments that we have at the moment, for example, with family hubs as an example. So there's a good piece of work to be done, and that's why it's important that we extended this contract now in order that we could do that detailed piece of work to make sure that when we do recommission and reprocure, we get the right service in the right place at the right time. And I think in terms of timelines, which Councillor Leanne Buckingham asked, we would like to The proposal is to extend this contract by up to 2 years, but we're very keen to do this piece of work as quickly as possible. So it would be envisaged that the work behind the scenes would go on over the year, hopefully to be ready to re-procure either this time next year, but with the possibility that we can extend to that further year if we need to. So I hope that's answered those questions, and I will get back to you, Councillor Addison. I will go on to the report itself now, some of which I've kind of covered in my answers. So the purpose of the report is to provide executive members... Oh, I have just remembered another question. It was about the health visiting metrics and where we're not doing as well as we would hope. So the first two of the metrics we're doing really well. You know, we've got high levels of contact. The two that you mention are falling back. I always hate to say this because I think it's a bit complacent, but it's very much in line with what's going on nationally. I don't want to be in line with what's going on nationally. I want to be doing better than what is going on nationally. And so this is something that is being very closely monitored, and hopefully you will have seen that there is a service improvement plan attached to the paper, so that you can see that we're working closely with, in this case, NHFT to improve those metrics, and they will be being reported. So the purpose of the report is to provide executive members with an update on the progress of the integrated 0 to 19 children and young people services, including Reach Youth Counselling and Strong Start Universal Early Year Service. The report provides summary information on the progress so far with the integrated approach for children and young people services with the Integrated Care Board, including the 0 to 19 services, children and young people's mental health and Reach Counselling services. The 0 to 19 public health nursing service is provided by Northamptonshire Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust, NHFT. The current annual contract value is £11,762,303. The contract ends on the 31st of March 2023. The North Northants contract value is 48.6% of that amount. The 0 to 19 public health nursing service is funded using the Public Health Ring-Fenced Grant. The service delivers the Healthy Child programme, which is a series of mandated interventions offered to all families that promote child development and safeguarding. The Northamptonshire service delivers health visiting, school nursing, family nurse partnership, which is a bespoke programme for teenage parents, and breastfeeding services. Youth counselling services are provided by the Reach Collaborative, which consists of 5 community organisations, delivering Tier 1 and 2 counselling services for young people aged 11 to 18 across the county. The current annual contract value is £543,000. Public health grant-funded 0 to 19 services and Reach service are currently being managed through a Section 75 Lead and Associate Commissioner agreement with Northamptonshire Integrated Care Board, who are the lead commissioner. The 0 to 19 and Reach contract period commenced on the 1st of April 2020 and is due to expire on the 31st of March. The service currently covers both North and West Northamptonshire. The 0 to 5 universal non-clinical service is provided by Strong Start across Northamptonshire under an accountability arrangement. This service delivers parenting and baby groups, one-to-one support and an online offer, working very closely with maternity and health visiting services for referrals. The annual agreement value is £601,000 and the service is provided by West Northamptonshire Council. This paper seeks approval from the Executive to delegate authority to the Executive Member for Adults' Health and Wellbeing in consultation with the Director of Public Health and Wellbeing and the Director of Finance to extend the existing Section 75 agreements with ICB partners for up to 2 years, from April 2023 to March 2025, and the Strong Start arrangements with West Northants Council. Extending the contract for up to 2 years would incur a cost of £25.928 million. This council's contribution equates to £12.6 million, and that contract will be met by existing public health budgets. The contract extension will allow time to test and increase market interest, as well as exploring ways to achieve best value. It will provide stability and continuity for service users during the period where the current services are evaluated and the development of wider joint commissioning plans takes place. Evaluation frameworks will be introduced to measure the impact of the service, and this will be benchmarked against regional and statistical neighbours. This work will also inform a more strategic vision. Work has begun with the service to regularly review the areas that require further improvement, and service improvement plans have been introduced to closely monitor for improvement in activity. Current health visiting performance is outlined at 4.19, and the service improvement plan can be seen at Appendix A. With that, again, I am happy to propose the recommendations at 3.1.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harrison. Members, have you got anything to add in relation to this report that's been brought forward today? No? Okay, so Councillor Harrison has moved the report. Can I look for someone to second that report, please? Councillor Edwards, thank you very much. So the report has been moved and seconded. The recommendations are on page 144 of the agenda pack. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. So we move on now to item 10, School Education Capital Programme Business Case, Wollaston Secondary School and SEND Unit Extension. So I'd like to invite Councillor Edwards to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is the school's capital programme for Wollaston School, just outside Wellingborough, to create a 12-place SEND standalone unit within the grounds of Wollaston School. This is much needed within North Northants. You'll know that the rise of EHCPs and those with SEND needs requires us to do this, and needs us to do this to allow children to stay within mainstream education and indeed within North Northants instead of busing them out to other areas as well. You'll be pleased to know as well, this isn't just the only one. We have got more that are coming forward later on in the year to work on the capacity that is needed. The cost is £561,340, which is met from the D&V Higher Needs allocation, and is most welcome within Wollaston. Wollaston School currently has over 20 special educational needs students, 2 with complete sight loss as well, who do a fantastic job of teaching those students, but need this additional space to be able to continue to do this. So I would recommend this for approval.
Fantastic, Councillor Edwards. Again, great news, good investment into an area which is very important to this executive and this authority. So, members, is there any comments you want to make in regards to this report? Councillor Howells.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a very simple, quick comment. It's absolutely brilliant. We've got problems with SEND, and this increases the ability to find places. I hear about SEND all the time at home, which is frustrating. But yeah, this is brilliant. This is a right step in the right direction. Thank you.
Well done, Councillor Howells. Thank you very much. Okay. So, Councillor Edwards has moved the report. Can someone second the report, please? Thank you very much, Councillor Howells. And the recommendations are on page 162 of the agenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. So we now move on to item 11, Capital Programme Update 22-23, and I'd like to invite Councillor Bunday to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. There are 3 items this month on this report. The first one being the Devolved Formula Capital Grant, which the Council receives on behalf of our grant-maintained schools, and we then passport the funds onto the schools for supporting capital-related requirements. The second one is the Wollaston School SEND facility, which is the one that we've just been hearing about. And the third one is the Rural England Prosperity Fund, which is capital grant scheme. And the second half of paragraph 5.5 explains exactly how that money is going to be spent. I'm very happy to propose the recommendations of paragraph 3, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bunday. Members, have you got any comments in relation to the paper in front of us? Councillor Lorman.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I just wanted to welcome the Rural Fund. anyone who's looked at the minutes of the various local area partnership meetings will know that most of the forums have identified travel as a barrier to lots of things, barrier to employment, a barrier to getting to medical help, a barrier to education. So I welcome some funding being included for travel within the rural community. In fact, I'm sure that if you ask them, they'd eat up the whole lot. But, it's certainly an area where I see lots of comments from the various parishes that travel and access to public transport in particular is important. So I'm looking forward to being able to help them out of this fund. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lorman. Councillor Brackenbury.
Thank you, Chair. I was actually going to say much of what Councillor Lorman just said, but it is welcome news that the rural allocation has been made. It's important, I think, we just reflect that there is quite a lot of rural deprivation and issues about accessibility and communications in rural areas. And I welcome the funding that's going to be put to very good use. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brackenbury. Councillor Howes.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I've been involved in this, and this the part in terms of the Rural England Prosperity Fund. I'm really looking forward to hopefully this coming off. You know, the rural often gets left behind. It's one of our left behind areas, and you know, it's greatly needed in stimulating our rural economy, and it's fantastic to see that this part of the pot is hopefully going to be coming forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Howes. Councillor Howe.
Thank you, Chairman. I do apologise, not got much of a voice today. Just with talking about the rural fund as well, actually, it'd be very useful if obviously we have the support from our officers in the cultural aspect, and we can provide that support to the rural communities as well. So it'd be good if our officers would be involved in that and offer their support, because they have a wealth of experience in that cultural sector. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you very much. So nothing else to be said there. So Councillor Bundy, I'll leave you to wrap up on that.
I think everything's been said, Chair. I must admit, I think the highlight, all three are very, very good news stories, but I think the highlight must be the Wollaston SEND facility, and it's going to make such a difference, and with other projects coming through as well. But I'm happy to propose the recommendations, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bundy. Would someone like to second the recommendations in the report? Councillor Howes, thank you very much. So the recommendations are set out on page 170 of the agenda pack, and they've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands of favour, please? That's fantastic. Thank you very much. So we now move on to item 12, budget forecast 22-23 as of period 10. I'd like to invite Councillor Bundy to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to set out the forecast revenue budget outturn at position 2022-23 of the General Fund and Housing Revenue Account as at period 10. The forecast outturn for the General Fund is an overspend of some £2.111 million against a budget in excess of £300 million. This is a favourable movement in period of £3.131 million, where at the end of period 9 we were reporting an overspend of some £5.242 million. The details of the movement is set out at the table at paragraph 4.3, and there are a number of significant variances since period 9. The main pressure is that of the Children's Trust, who are reporting a forecast overspend of £14.995 million in period 10, which is an increase of over £1.5 million from period 9. The cost to North Northants Council is £6.621 million, which is an increase of £667,000 in period. During the same period, there have been a number of savings. These include adults reporting an underspend of some £380,000 due to lower placement costs. Within assets and environment, there's been a significant change from period 9, where a pressure of £216,000 was reported. In period 10, we are reporting a £1.208 million saving. This is a movement of £1.424 million. The largest movement has been in property and facilities management, which includes favourable movements on salaries, business rates, additional rental income from rental reviews, and a supplies and services spend review. Place and economy has also shown an improvement with positive movements in planning policy and economic development, and also in the regulatory services. There are anticipated staff savings of some £624,000 within HR, which is a movement of £248,000 from period 9. One-off costs of £291,000, which was previously reported as a pressure relating to the leadership structure following the review of the transformation service. This will now be funded through the Council's capitalisation directive, which removes this from the forecast. As part of the final financial settlement announced by government, there's a redistribution of £100 million from the levy account surplus for the business rates retention system for 22-23. This is a result of the levy payments made by authorities being greater than the safety net payments being made by the government to authorities, which has generated a surplus. Northamptonshire Council will receive a payment of £476,000, and this has been reflected in period 10. The housing revenue account has a forecast overspend of £234,000 against an approved budget of £36.27 million. The HRA has been affected by a number of factors, but the main pressure is due to the application of agreed pay awards, and they were higher than we budgeted for. The details of the movement against budget are set out in the report in section 6. As I have said on many occasions, like many councils, the main issues, risks and unknowns that we continue to face are around inflationary impact and the changes in the demand-led services. And although it would be remiss of me not to remind members about this, I must commend our Adults Directorate for being well in control of their costs. With that, Chair, I'm very happy to propose the recommendations of paragraph 3.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Bunday. Members, do we have anything to add to this report? Councillor Howe.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we all know that that utility costs are having a massive impact on all of our services, and one of the key areas in my field is obviously the leisure centres and swimming pools and such. And it was really, really welcome news that we had from the budget yesterday that the government is setting aside £63 million to support council-owned swimming pools. So that is really welcome, because you know, we are really struggling to maintain that service, and there's been over 400 swimming pools across the country have closed over the last few years because of the pressures. So that is a really, really welcome fund coming into this council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, anything else? No? Okay. Well, thank you. Councillor Bunday has moved the report. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Howe, thank you very much. The recommendations are set out on page 176 of the agenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. Okay, so urgent items of business. I can confirm that I've received no requests to consider any urgent items of business at this meeting. And that concludes the business of the agenda. I'd like to thank everyone, officers, public and online members of